So I recently finished Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales, the third in the Emily Wilde trilogy. And instead of making a dedicated review for just the third book, I think the people who read the first two and loved them are just going to read the third one anyway. And if you haven't started the series yet, it is most beneficial to hear how the whole series holds up. This series follows the main character, Emily Wilde, a professor at Cambridge who is a dryadologist, aka someone who studies fairies, also known as the Fae, also known as the Fair Folk. They're kind of historical fantasy. They take place in the real world if fairies coexisted with us in the real world. I would classify these under cozy fantasy rather than romantasy. There is a romantic subplot, but it's not the main thing. And this series does not include any spice, as it's being called in the book world. It is assumed that consenting adults have adult relations, but those always happen off screen. You know they happen, but it's never described. So I have not read much cozy fantasy, but from what I understand, it's not necessarily the most plot heavy of genres. And something that I really appreciated about this series was that the plot was still strong, at least through the first two. The first one, Emily Wilde's Encyclopaedia of Faeries, starts with Emily Wilde traveling to Ravensvik, Jutland in Norway to work on her Encyclopedia of Faeries. She has this rivalry with another professor from Cambridge who she doesn't necessarily really like or respect. And when he comes along behind her, her biggest fear is that he's going to steal her research. One of my favorite things, even though it's not a romantasy and that's not the main part of the book, one of my favorite parts is the dynamic between Emily and Wendell. Wendell is her colleague that she has the rivalry with. They are such opposite people. Emily is often described as curmudgeonly. She doesn't care if her clothes are wrinkled. She loves books. She cares more about her research than making friends, or at least she's better at research than at making friends. She kind of envies Wendell, how easily he can just go up and talk to people. Something she's not very good at. It has very cute, trying to assimilate into the village kind of vibes because she is the newcomer and they're not sure if they like her and what she's doing. And it's not just her journey to study the fairies, but her journey in how to make friends and how to interact with people. And the second one, Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands, follows a very similar format in that Emily and Wendell travel to a new place to learn more about fairy. Okay, there's construction going on, so if you hear hammering, I am sorry. In the second one, they have a little more of a goal than just research. I probably shouldn't say what it is because it might be a little bit of a spoiler for the first one. That's the trouble with reviewing a whole series. But there's also a village that they have to go to, and they're doing research there, and the villagers aren't sure if they like what Emily and Wendell are doing. The second one adds a couple more characters that I really like. I like their characterization. I like that they were added and the dynamic it adds to the story, because I can really relate to Emily the person and how she has a hard time interacting with real people in real life. But seeing her build those relationships anyway, both professional and personal, and then the way that the relationship between Emily and Wendell develops over these books, I think is a very natural progression and very well done and super duper cute. And then the third one, Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales, does not follow the same format. The name of the book is not so much descriptive of the in-world book that Emily is working on like these other couple. I felt like the plot in the third one was not quite as strong as the first two. I felt like it was a little more meandering, not as clear-cut A to B style of plotting. And then one of the things that I was less happy with, and I'll try to say it without giving spoilers. In the first two, the land of Fairy, where the fair folk live, is a lot more mysterious. Humans just don't understand it because it's hard to get there. And once they do get there, humans often get lost. They don't always return. If they do, they don't always return in their right mind. Studying the fair folk is dangerous. And then in the third one, while the fair folk and the land of fairy is still very much a dangerous place, a lot of the mystery is taken away. And something that I had really looked forward to, again, trying not to spoil the third one, because of the type of person Emily is, I expected certain reactions from her or a certain sense of enjoyment or joy from her in this third one. And it felt like a lot of the feel from her was more stressed and fearful and not really enjoying what she was doing as much as in these first two. And to me, part of the joy of the story is living through that joy of the character in the story. I also thought the end, just the plot being a little more meandering and parts of it being less mysterious, the third one just fell a little flat. But overall, still love the series. The first two I loved enough that the third one falling flat did not ruin it for me. It does bring resolution to a few of the plot threads woven through from the beginning clear through to the end, especially ones introduced in the second book. There was nothing at the end that I felt like I was left wanting. I felt more like it could have just been a little more polished. So if what you're looking for is a fairy tale style cozy fantasy with that scholarly feel and a relatable main character, well, she was relatable to me. I don't think she will be to everybody, but if you're somebody who loves to read, a character who loves to read can be pretty relatable. I highly recommend these. They are easy, enjoyable reads. I'll put links to them in the description of this video. I will also link my Instagram and my Patreon. Thank you, patrons. I appreciate you guys so much, and I wish you happy reading. Bye.